Hi there, Jeremy from Reiki here. In this video, what I'd like to do is talk to you about the Reiki Precepts. Now, the Reiki Precepts are not the most glamorous feature in the Reiki system. In fact, if you haven't studied Reiki, you've probably never heard about them. Now, even those students who have studied Reiki, for a lot of these, the only time they actually think about the precepts or the only time they even consider working with the precepts is at the course itself. Now, this is kind of ironic because for Usui, the precepts and the meditations were actually far more foundational than what Reiki is famous for, and that is the hands-on healing. So he taught these before he taught the hands-on healing. That was how important he thought they were to the overall Reiki system. And yet, as I said, these days, most people can't really even recall what the precepts are, and they certainly don't use them. Now, let's imagine that you've had a good teacher and that you've meditated with the precepts a bit and you've got quite a bit of value from them, but chances are that even so, you don't work with the precepts regularly. Now, the reason for this is probably that you're more focused, at least in your own mind, on healing people and healing yourself, healing others, and you think that the hands-on healing is a far more effective tool for doing this. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had an issue healing a specific problem? So let's imagine it's an emotional issue, like your ex walked out on you so many years back. It was a kind of bitter parting, or at least a tragic parting from your point of view, and you haven't really got over it. Every time you hear a certain song, maybe a song you used to listen to together with your ex, that kind of sends a shiver of pain through you. Or maybe there's another trigger and all of a sudden you find yourself getting angry at the thought of your ex, and you're thinking, this is really odd because I've been Reikiing myself for years, I've been putting my hands on, I've been feeling energy flow in great quantities, and you're sure that it must have eliminated and got rid of and healed all sorts of things like the problems with the ex, the pain of the separation, and yet it still remains to this day. You can have things that still hurt you today after 10 years of hands-on Reiki, and you're thinking, what is wrong? Is hands-on healing with Reiki not so effective? What's the issue? Well, the issue is that you're using the wrong tool to fix that problem. Remember, the traditional Japanese Reiki system actually has 5 key pillars. So each pillar, in a sense, is like a tool, and these tools have specific purposes, and you'll need the different tools depending on what sort of issue you're trying to fix. So if you're using the wrong tool, you're going to have a problem. If you're trying to chop a piece of wood in half with a hammer, you've got a problem. But if you're trying to nail something in with a saw, it's equally not going to work. The thing to remember about the Japanese is that they're what you'd see as minimalists. If you think of the traditional way a Japanese room's furnished, like maybe the living room, for example, there might just be a coffee table in the center and a few little cushions. Not much. They don't believe in clutter. They don't believe in adding things unless they are strictly necessary. And the same with the Reiki system. There are 5 pillars to the Reiki system. Why? Because you need each and every one of those 5 pillars. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the precepts then. Now, these days, I like to work with 2 versions, the classical version and a kind of a modernized one I wrote where I rephrased the precepts into a more positive version. But the thing that both of these versions of the precepts have in common is that they're really designed to focus on removing resistance points. Now, you might have heard the saying, what you resist persists. Well, unfortunately, we waste a lot of energy because we resist all sorts of things which we find uncomfortable. Now, you might say, oh, I don't know, I don't resist too much. Well, just take any example you want. Spend a moment to think of someone or some situation, either present or from the past, that you really don't like very much. Okay, so think of that situation. Now, what do you feel in your body? Chances are you'll feel yourself kind of pushing away from that situation. Energetically, you're kind of distancing yourself from that situation. And what's that? That's resistance. So you're resisting that situation. And as a result, all sorts of problems occur. And as we say, what you resist persists, because you're actually kind of feeding energy into that, into that issue. Okay, so what the original version of the precepts do is they help you become aware of these resistance points. And once you become aware of it, they teach you just to feel it without trying to change it. And what you find is if you can just open up to your feelings to do with a certain situation without trying to manipulate, change them, push them away, do anything to them, then these feelings and emotions will dissolve and you'll be free of that resistance point. Now, what the modernized version of the precepts does is it looks at things just from a slightly different angle. And what it says is, you know what, when you resist something, energetically you're contracting, you're sort of closing in on yourself. So again, you might need to do a little bit of an experiment here. Think of something that, again, you don't like. It can be the example you thought of before. And not only are you kind of blocking yourself away from it, you also find that energetically you kind of often close in on yourself. Again, it's a way to kind of shield yourself from the issue. Now, the problem is when you close in on yourself energetically, you're going to find that you are miserable. Think of the opposite. Think of something that you really love. Think of something that you delight in, and do that for a moment. Just try to feel in your body. Okay, have you thought of something that you really like or love? And what energetically is going on? You'll find that you're in a very energetically expansive state. You're kind of expanding out. You know that those days when you're sort of feeling depressed. When you're feeling depressed, you don't want to see anyone. You want to just kind of go into your cave and you're curling up like this. But the thing is, what you want to do is in fact the very worst thing you can do, because it makes you miserable. What you need to try to do is the exact opposite. What you do when you're feeling in a very good, a very buoyant state, and that is you want to open up energetically, because when you do, you're going to feel great. So what the modern version of the precepts does, by reframing everything in a sort of a positive version, they get you in an energetically expansive state. So they get you to focus on things like love and things like appreciation. So the first precept in the classical version reads something like this: for today only do not anger, which as you can see is in the negative. But when we reframe it in the positives, it comes out as today I'm filled with love. And you can see that's a very expansive state. You feel yourself kind of expanding out energetically as you say it. At least ideally, because you might also find that a part of you isn't so expansive. You might find that actually a part of you feels resistance to that idea. Maybe you're in a grumpy mood and you say, well, you know what, I can say I'm filled with love, but the truth is I don't feel filled with love. And that could well be true. So what do you do then? Well, you find the way energetically you're kind of contracting in on yourself, and you try just to flip. You try to open up. So instead of retracting energetically, you open yourself up. So as you say, today I'm filled with love. Today I'm filled with love. You just repeat that a few times, then you feel inside your body. And what do you find? You find that, yep, there's a part of you which isn't expanding, it's contracting. So then you just open up, open up to that feeling. And you'll find that then, once you open up, an interesting thing happens. Energy starts to flow. So while you're contracted, actually what happens is you block the flow of energy. But when you open up, energy can flow. And your body, you might not really be aware of this, but it actually takes nutrition into it in many different forms. So you're breathing, so you're taking in oxygen, you're eating, you're drinking. This is all forms of energy you're taking in, but also there's an energy level. You're taking in kind of chi all the time. And that's why the chakras are created. The chakras are kind of energy centers in your body which enable you to draw in nourishing energy from the universe. But if you're all energetically closed off, then your body can't draw in this critical energy, and your system is going to suffer as a result. So once you learn to kind of open up energetically, then your body can receive all the nourishment from the universe, and as a result, you're going to feel an increase in well-being and happiness. Okay, so what is the moral then? The moral is, in short, use the Reiki precepts. Why? Because they're going to help you to, firstly, fix very specific things, old hurts and stuff, which just simple hands-on healing isn't going to cure. And then by enabling you to get rid of resistance points and opening up to energy flow, they're going to increase the energy in your system, and as a result, they're going to improve your sense of happiness and well-being. Now, of course, the only way you can really verify whether this is the case is by using the precepts, meditating on them. So I recommend give it a shot, try the precepts, see how it goes, and if you have good results, write in and tell me. Thank you.